Verizon FinTech offers the best of both worlds, innovative banking and cutting-edge tech combined with the safety of government backing. Think names like Cash App, SoFi, PayPal, and Stripe. But the reality for some of those customers appears to be anything but safe and secure. CNBC.com banking reporter Hugh Sun joins me now with more. He has a new story out looking at how thousands of Americans, they got caught in fintech's false promise. Hugh, good morning. Great to have you here. Give us a sense. What is this story about? How many people impacted?
Yeah, hey Frank, it's great to be with you. And it's really important to talk about this story because the mainstream press hasn't really covered it up until recently. Effectively 100,000 Americans who've been customers of fintech apps with names like Yada, Juno, and Copper, have been locked out of their main banking accounts for 2 months, really since early May. And that's because of, and we don't have to get too deep into this, but there's a financial sort of middleman called Synapse that basically blew up. It went into bankruptcy in early May, in April-May timeframe, and as a result, they shut down some of the systems that connected a lot of these fintech apps with the partner banks that actually help them offer things like checking accounts and debit cards. And as a result, you've just had people really suffering for the past 2 months, suffering mostly in silence because they haven't been able to do things like pay their bills, pay their mortgages, and they've been forced to borrow money from friends and family to essentially live.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Is Wealthfront the best high-yield savings account in 2024? We're going to go over all these details in today's video. We're going to go over the pros, cons, and whether or not it's a great organization for you. Before we get started, if you want to learn more about high-yield savings accounts and start making passive income with them, I made a free downloadable resource that you can check in the link in the description, where you can learn about how to choose the best high-yield savings account for you, what to do if a bank fails. So with all this being said, let's jump right into the video. And the first clarification we need to make when it comes to, there's a couple of them when it comes to Wealthfront. Number one is that Wealthfront itself does not offer high-yield savings accounts. They offer cash accounts, which are essentially a combination of checking. You can use it as a checking account, or you can use it as a savings, where you can just start using it and start making a lot of transactions, or you can just use it to store your money and you would gain a high APY. Currently, it's around 5%, and we're going to go over all of these details here in a few seconds. The other distinction we need to make with Wealthfront, it's the fact that Wealthfront is not a bank. It is a fintech, and we're going to go also into these details because this is very important as we go forward in today's video, and it's going to establish the perspective through which I will be giving you my review here with the pros and the cons and everything else. So overall, what I want to share with you here is that Wealthfront itself seems to have good products, and most customers I've heard of are happy. However, there is something you need to know about it before you just go and open your account, because it's not all about just the interest. And at least that's the way I personally see it. And this is coming from somebody that's been using high yield savings accounts for a few years now. And after I finished paying off $215,000 of debt with my wife, it was a long road. So nowadays we use high yield savings accounts for our emergency fund. We are also saving for a house. This is our main financial goal. So we also use our high yield savings accounts to pay off our car recently, and we just bought it. So it was really nice to just be able to do that. And the interest that we gain in our high yield savings account, of course, helped us achieve that goal. And I want the same from you. I want you to also have a high yield savings account that you trust, where you can just bank with confidence and start making that passive income. And with that being said, here is my personal checklist when it comes to choosing a high yield savings account. And all of these are parameters that I've developed as an engineer with my background that helps me filter through the noise and identify what to look for if I were to choose a high yield savings account nowadays. So we're going to go over all of these details. I'm not going to mention them right now, but I wanted to give you that as a perspective and also insight on what we're going to be looking into in today's video. Now, before we get into the best Wealthfront features, we need to understand how Wealthfront works. As I mentioned previously, Wealthfront is not a bank, it's a fintech. Now, originally, Wealthfront was established in 2008 in Palo Alto, California. And California is a beautiful place, by the way. If you've never been there, I highly, highly recommend you go check it out. Now, a fintech bank is a financial technology company that uses banking solutions from an open banking provider and often runs on a mobile app. Now, fintechs in general, not just Wealthfront, can offer a variety of services like checking accounts, savings, money transfers, like you think of like Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, and also they can also offer financial advice. Now, little did you know, Wealthfront original niche was actually robo-advisor. That's exactly how it started, and that's its original mastery field per se. That's just what they do, and they provide robo-advisory services to investors. With this being said, this is my understanding on how fintechs generally work. Now, there's a few things here that you need to be paying attention to and take into account. And that is, number one, the fact that you are here, right? Like us customers, we are here. And then we have the fintech, in this case, Wealthfront, which offers the products, the marketing, and the whole business model, the whole shebang. And then we have a middleman. It's a middleman that keeps track of transactions, owners, the debits, the credits, of everything that's going on with the accounts. And at the end of the day, of course, you have the bank and the FDIC, which is provided to the fintech. So as you can see here, the fintech itself, it's not FDIC insured, but they do partner with banks that are FDIC insured. Now, this is going to be key because I want to be sharing a lot more details why this is important as we go forward with Wealthfront. And one of the reasons you might be asking, like, why don't they become just banks? That's because becoming a bank, it's very expensive. So they much rather just establish a partnership with the bank and then let the bank handle all the legal stuff, and then they just focus on providing the products, the marketing, the business model to their customers. So that's the way I personally see it anyways. If you are more versed on this topic, please let me know in the comments. I would love to gain your insight. Okay, so now with all this being said, let's jump right into the best features and general features of Wealthfront, which is why you're here and you're wondering what's going on. So currently the interest rate is at 5.0. Now this is a rate that has been consistent for quite some time now. And it's a good thing, I believe, because there's many banks out there that because the Federal Reserve may start lowering their interest rates, they are already getting ahead and starting to lower their interest rates. I've seen American Express, Ally kind of reduce their interest rates, but only a few points, like not that much. Like it's like 0.2, 0.1. So it's not like other banks are just falling behind too much. So overall, long story short, 5.0, it's a very much competitive and very high APY for a high yield savings account nowadays. Now, they do offer an account opening bonus if you have a referral link, which I do not have, but if you know somebody that banks with Wealthfront, and you can gain a 0.5 extra APY, which would give you a 5.5 APY for 3 months. Now that sounds pretty good. If 5.5 sounds nice, then 5.5% sounds even better. Now, when it comes to FDIC insurance, Wealthfront partners with a bunch of other banks, and they're able to provide you with an FDIC insurance up to $8 million. So they act essentially as a middleman, and they distribute your money through all these other banks, and then all the other banks give you a total of up to $8 million in FDIC insurance. So let's just say it's safe to say that most people will be okay with the regular $250,000. So that's good enough for me, quite honestly. Also, they don't give you a minimum deposit. You do not have to have a minimum deposit to open an account. And also, they have no maintenance fees. You can access your money through online, of course, the mobile, and also ATM if you do end up opening a checking account, which, as I mentioned, is a cash account. So you do get your ATM card. And when it comes to making deposits, you can you can put money into your account through bank transfer, direct deposit, wire transfer. You can also do e-check, mobile deposit. So there's a lot of versatility here where you can start making your deposits. And when it comes to making withdrawals, let's say that you want to take your money from Wealthfront to another institution. It takes approximately 1 to 3 business days, which is honestly very much standard. If a bank takes 4 days, 5 days, then it's a little long for me based on what I've seen. Some other banks out there give you same day transfer. So it just depends on how long you yourself are willing to wait for your money. Now, if you are wondering whether or not Wealthfront has other features, as I mentioned previously, they do offer a bunch of others. For example, not only do they have the savings, they also have the checking, which is the cash account, and they also offer investing, and they make it very, very easy to invest your money because that's just what they do, and that's the core of their business. Okay, so now with this being said, here's a few other details that I personally think are important. For example, branding established in 2008, mainly for investing. It's an AI-based robo-advisors. And also when it comes to number of withdrawals per month, it's unlimited. Some banks offer 6 withdrawals per month, others up to 10. Now, when it comes to customer service, yes, they do have customer service available. You can either call or email them. Here's something that I want to spend some time here because it's important for us to understand. And this is important to understand whenever we are considering a high yield savings account. And this is one of my frequently asked questions, and that is, hey, Alex, how long would the high yield savings rates stay this high? Now, the truth is that the high yield savings rates are influenced by the Federal Reserve's interest rates and overall economic conditions. When the Fed raises rates to control inflation, banks often increase savings rates as well. That's exactly why you have seen a lot of banks and online banks specifically that are offering crazy high yield savings accounts interest rates. And these rates will likely stay high as long as the Fed maintains higher interest rates and inflation concerns persist. So for example, if inflation starts cooling down, which based on the last report is around 3%, maybe plus minus 0.5%. But the bottom line here is that I have seen some reports that the Federal Reserve may start cutting interest rates in the near future, which means these high yield savings accounts interest rates, for as high as they are now, they may start going down soon enough. So generally, high yield savings rates will decrease when the economy stabilizes and the Fed lowers interest rates to encourage borrowing and spending. So for example, when I signed up with my main bank nowadays, they were offering 1% APY, and now I'm getting 5.4. So that just gives you right there how much interest rates have increased over the last couple of years, and they're about to go back down. Okay, so now the second frequently asked question that I get, which is very important in this context, is what if Wealthfront fails? How do I get my money back? Now, here's something I want you to pay attention to, and that is if a bank fails, it would usually be bought by another bank and your account will just transfer. If no one buys the bank, the FDIC will step in and write you a check within a couple of business days. Now, why is this important? Because FDIC steps in only if there's a bank failure. The bank has to fail in order for the FDIC to step in. Now, remember, Wealthfront is not a bank. They have a partnership with not just one bank, but many banks, as you can see on the screen right now. And this is important because a few months ago, fintech YATA ran into some issues and thousands of people were locked out of their accounts. And it wasn't YATA that had the problem. It wasn't the bank that had the problem. It was the middleman. If you remember from the screen here that I'm showing you from the business model of how fintechs work, it was the middleman that ran into some issues and it affected YATA. And because there was no bank failure, the bank that YATA had a partnership with never had a problem. They were fine. So what happened was the FDIC did not step in.
The rise in fintech offers the best of both worlds, innovative banking and cutting-edge tech combined with the safety of government backing. Think names like Cash App, SoFi, PayPal, and Stripe. But the reality for some of those customers appears to be anything but safe and secure. CNBC.com banking reporter Hugh Sun joins me now with more. He has a new story out looking at how thousands of Americans, they got caught in fintech's false promise. Hugh, good morning. Great to have you here. Give us a sense. What is this story about? How many people impacted?
Yeah, hey, Frank, it's great to be with you. And it's really important to talk about this story because the mainstream press hasn't really covered it up until recently. Effectively 100,000 Americans who've been customers of fintech apps with names like YATA, Juno, and Copper, have been locked out of their main banking accounts for 2 months, really since early May. And that's because of, and we don't have to get too deep into this, but there's a financial sort of middleman called Synapse that basically blew up. It went into bankruptcy in early May, in April-May timeframe, and as a result, they shut down some of the systems that connected a lot of these fintech apps with the partner banks that actually help them offer things like checking accounts and debit cards. And as a result, you've just had people really suffering for the past 2 months, suffering mostly in silence because they haven't been able to do things like pay their bills, pay their mortgages, and they've been forced to borrow money from friends and family to essentially live.
So, of course, this was huge for many customers, and there was a huge fiasco happening with this fintech. I am bringing this up just so that you are aware. I'm not meaning to scare you. I'm not trying to discourage you to use Wealthfront. If you feel comfortable with them, then so be it. That's of course, personal finance is personal. It's your decision. But I just wanted to show you here the different sides of the story and the coin, that even though Wealthfront has good products and generally speaking, good people have good experiences with them, then there's of course a little bit of a downside because it is a fintech. That's the way I personally see it. And one more thing we need to go over before we go over the summary here, and that is the pros and cons of Wealthfront. And quite honestly, Wealthfront doesn't have that many cons. That's the way I was looking at it and analyzing it. So they do have a higher APY than most other online banking, and in the world of high yield savings accounts of 5.0%. You can take it all the way to 5.5 for 3 months if you have a referral link. There's also no minimum deposit and monthly fees. You also have the FDIC insurance, which quite honestly, it's a lot, and you may not need that much. If you do, then hey, congratulations. Also, they have an investing heavy reputation, which if you are also looking into making investments, start making moves in the stock market and index funds and mutual funds, then maybe that's also a pro in your book. And overall, I have seen good customer reviews. And like anything, right? It's like, yes, good customer reviews overall, but there's always going to be someone that's going to go out there and just maybe they haven't heard from customer service, they had a bad rep, and I feel like there's no perfect organization. There's pros and cons to everybody. And when it comes to cons, then there's no locations. It's fully online, which if you're looking at Wealthfront, then maybe you are okay with this, but I just wanted to just put it out there in case you are looking for physical locations and you feel more comfortable to bank with a bank that has physical locations. So for example, one of the hybrid ones that I've seen is Capital One. Capital One offers Capital One 360, and they have a high yield savings account portion that has a competitive APY. It's much lower, a little bit lower. It's in around 4.2% last time I checked. And they also offer physical locations in certain areas because that's just what they do. So if you want to combine physical services with these competitive online high yield savings account options or interest rates, there are other options out there for you. And also another con that I've noticed is this is not a bank itself, right? As I mentioned what happened to Yotta. If nothing would have happened to Yotta, I would have been like, okay, this is fine, right? Like it's a fintech, it's just a different business, and they are FDIC insured, they have a partnership with the bank. But the fact that Yotta had an issue that they couldn't even control, then that tells me to be a little bit more aware of these types of fintechs for as high of an interest as they may be able to offer. But hey, that's just me. Let me know what you think in the comments below, because I know there's going to be a lot of people that have great experiences with Wealthfront. They're not worried about it. And it's one of those things that you worry about it once it happens, right? We got to be optimistic. I agree, but also we got to be we got to have a little bit of realism there. At least that's the way I see it. So is Wealthfront for you? Is this an organization that I would recommend to my mom? So it's a good option if you are looking if you feel comfortable with fintechs. First of all, if you are okay with that, and despite of what I've shared with you and what you've learned on your own about fintechs and the business model, then if you're okay with that, then hey, that's great. It's a good option for you then. If you think it's good, then it is good. It's also good because you have the higher interest rate. You also have the FDIC insurance, and you also have a bunch of other options like investing and other automated tools. So especially investing if you want to start dipping your toes in the stock market. Also, it may not be for you if you want to use a bank or physical locations, even if it means having a lower interest rate. And also, it may not be for you if you want a cash bonus, and it's something to take into account because with a 0.5%, depending on how much money you have, that may end up being more money overall than a cash bonus of $200 or $300. Also, if you want an organization perhaps with a little bit more history that is more established, like for example, there's others out there, like I'm not even a sponsor, I don't have affiliate links to Capital One or American Express, or I'm just sharing them because there's just other options out there for you if you are interested in them. So let me know what you think. Is Wealthfront for you? Does it meet all of your requirements? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.